Liverpool 1, Manchester City 1, ESPN FC Live. Mark Donaldson alongside Janusz Mihalik. And the biggest winners this weekend, Janusz? Arsenal. What a game that was at Anfield. Was it a fair reflection, the scoreline, on how things played out?
Well, I think overall not, because, we'll remember what happened, in the second half, how team reacts, right? I mean, it's not like Manchester City were by far the better side in the first half, maybe couple better chances, better looks. I think Liverpool slightly controlled possession. But in the second half, for me, it was all Liverpool. I mean, Manchester City were played off the pitch. When was the last? I can't remember the last time where Manchester City pretty much defended for dear life. And even if you look at the substitutions, De Bruyne, right? I mean, Pep was really, really worried about that. Kovacic, I think he made a mistake with that substitution because De Bruyne, I don't care what happens, but, one set piece, one cross, one shot, you can change the game. So I don't understand why he did that, other than the fact that his team was under tremendous amount of pressure and lost control or didn't have any control, something that we know Manchester City by. So, this just incredible second half where I thought Liverpool not only were better, but more aggressive, more dangerous. And if it wasn't maybe for Klopp also making mistakes in removing Nunez for, similar reasons, because he creates enough chaos, as they say, and is always kind of late in the game, one where I don't know if I'd take him off. So other than that, 1-1 fair play, I suppose, but I think it just shows how far this Liverpool team has gone. Let's remember, they're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, true. And Salah's still a bit rusty when he came on as well. And we ended up with two backup goalkeepers, albeit both are pretty decent. Going forward, is that a better point for Liverpool or a better point for Manchester City as the away team?
Yeah, I suppose, but again, we have to talk about Liverpool. They'll take that because they'll build on that. I mean, we saw the power of Anfield, the power of Jurgen Klopp, the power of culture that has been there for Liverpool for decades, but especially now under Jurgen Klopp of trying to win at all costs. Winning is all that matters. I mean, I think Liverpool, in a way, in the second half, could have settled for a point, and nobody would look at it and say, wow, given the fact that they've had so many key players missing in this game against Manchester City that were pretty much with their strongest lineup. So I just think that Liverpool, I mean, as always, a home side, and given the fact that there is a third party involved, a third party that sits at the top, has the best goal difference, and will meet Manchester City next time, I think this was a game that Liverpool couldn't lose. They didn't, and they should have won it.
Yeah, just 1 point separating the top three. Delighted to welcome Gabriele Marcotti to discuss. Let's go through this chronologically. Manchester City's goal, well worked, Gab, near post run. Alexis McAllister maybe could have done a little bit better, but let's focus on the quality. It's been worked on, and the delivery from Kevin De Bruyne was perfect. And John Stones with the opening goal. What did you make of it, Gab?
Yeah, a score one for the set-piece coaches there, right? Made it look really, really easy. I haven't seen stuff like this. Obviously, it's McAllister's job to go and cut it out there, but equally, he wasn't expecting it either. De Bruyne hits it really, really well. I generally don't know. Maybe Janusz can tell us how difficult it actually is for a professional footballer to go and do that, to just hit the ball low and hard across at the near post. When the other players are doing their job, then you're relying on Stones to get away from Nunez. And again, Stones, I think, does really, really well. If you watch on the replay, he takes one step as if he's expecting a totally different kind of delivery, and then he kind of scurries away. So brilliant. I mean, is it that hard to do? Is that the hard bit, the De Bruyne bit?
Yeah, I mean, funny that you mentioned that, because I don't want to take anything away from the set-piece coaches, but I was watching the Arsenal game yesterday again, and as we all know, on corners in particular, they're the best in the league, and they're great, right? But the funny part is, being a player and looking at this, the one thing that we don't mention is that you can work anything you want on the pitch, but it's always about the delivery. Always. I mean, how often do we see the best players in the world having a difficulty clearing the first defender? on the near post, right? I mean, that's an issue. We all know the runs that we have to make, and maybe the set piece coaches, will set some pigs, this, that, or the other. When it works, of course, you want to give him credit for. But I think I look at Declan Rice and Odegaard at Arsenal, and I look at De Bruyne, I mean, how should we be surprised that De Bruyne played that ball? I mean, I was surprised how easily, because it was schoolboy defending from Liverpool. It was absolutely terrible. Nobody in the near post. Well, you can tell. I mean, near post, I mean somebody kind of actually standing there. Liverpool doesn't do that. But if you McAllister, no matter how unexpected this is, you can allow Ake to get on the inside of you so easily. So I just think that no surprise that De Bruyne can. I mean, I think De Bruyne can deliver any kind of ball, as I'm sure will agree, right? And that's why I thought it was a terrible mistake to take him off. I mean, a massive mistake from Pep Guardiola, even though he'll find a way of explaining it. And I saw De Bruyne saying that he understood it in some way, whatever that was.
I was eavesdropping earlier, though, guys. I mean, if you're Pep, what about this whole marathon, not a sprint is? I mean, I take your point that De Bruyne can deliver magic at any time, right? But in that second half, it looked like Liverpool's completely on the ascendancy. You've got, you've got the cops screaming, Anfield roaring. I don't have a problem with saying, all right, let's put Kovacic on there. Let's get a little bit tidy, and let's just get out of this with a point, slow them down. We're only a point behind. We got this. We're City, right? Rather than saying, well, let's leave De Bruyne on because he might do something.
Of course, but see, this is because, I don't know if you heard me before, I mean, Liverpool played Manchester City off the pitch. That doesn't happen. And just like Liverpool will always place to win. They could have settled. They didn't. They were going for that win, right? I look at Manchester City and I'm saying to myself, in a normal, like last year, they were unplayable. This year, you can get at them. Not just this game, but you can. They're not as good. They're still great, right? But think about it. You go after Liverpool. After this Liverpool, I mean, they're not supposed to be here. I mean, they're developing as we speak. And here's Manchester City defending for dear life. Where Gab, they win this game and they beat Arsenal in a couple of weeks' time in the next game. And it's done and dusted because, if you look at, they have Villa at home. If you look at that, it's done and dusted. After beating Liverpool and Arsenal, it's over. So that's what's unexpected. We can sit here and say, well, the point is fine for them. But for God's sakes, this is Manchester City. And look what Liverpool were able to do to them.
Yeah, we'll see at the end of the season if it was something that they should have gone for, or when they win the title, if they do, then they'll be happy with a point at Anfield. They beat Arsenal next week. Of course, I can't really tell right now because, look, Liverpool in that second half, I don't know if any team in the world would have coped with them. It was a proper 12th man, and I think City look at that despite being a goal up and say, you know what? Yeah, we'll take that point. We'll go back and we're happy with it.
See, you can explain everything you want in any way you want, but tell me, because Gab is better at this because I have a terrible memory. Tell me the last time you remember City being under this sort of pressure, because I can't remember. It is unusual, and for me, it's not enough to just say, well, it's a good point. Of course, it's a good point going away to Liverpool. But again, I've seen Liverpool teams. Come on, where are we going from here? I mean, this is not just a fairy tale. This is a squad that's developing in front of our eyes that was winning everything in that second half. Everything against this mighty Manchester City. Those players will tell you.
Janusz, they were brilliant in the second half, Liverpool. They only scored one goal. Darwin Núñez in the first half should have stayed onside, but can't time his run. Brilliant striker, never gives up, never leaves anything out there, but still, he in that first half was flagged 5 times for offside. Erling Haaland this season has been flagged once for offside. So you can go individually. You can talk about Darwin Núñez. You can talk about Haaland being quiet. You could talk about the bar being hit. You could talk about Foden. What's the biggest takeaway from this game, Janusz?
The biggest takeaway is that Manchester City are not straight out, I mean, the title can go anywhere. This time in so many years, I mean, normally we'd know by now, right? We're always saying, oh, look at the squad, look at the depth. Manchester City is going to find a way. They very well may. But with the 3 teams, we're not even talking about Arsenal who are playing out of their minds. I just think that if, Pep won't say it, but he will have to be disappointed, right? I mean, the key play. I mean, Foden was not existent. I mean, one time he got the beating of Gomez. He was not existent. Haaland, for the most part, nothing special. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on. I mean, you can't tell me that you weren't disappointed with the way Manchester City play.
Look, they were what they were in the second half. They get a point out of it. Now, is it more important for them to not lose the game or to get a point out of it? And what happened at halftime, Gab? Because Liverpool came flying out the block, and Ederson's just had one of those moments. He's made a play on the ball, even although it didn't get to it. That's why it's not a red card, for anybody wondering. But he ends up going off. Liverpool get back into it, and Liverpool didn't really look back from there, did they, Gab?
No, and I think it still felt to me like, I mean, you could just, right, obviously I wasn't there, I was watching on television, but you could tell, like, when the teams got on the pitch, like the crowd were expecting something, right? And even in the latter stages of the first half, I thought, all right, I'd be very surprised if we get to halftime without another goal. Obviously we did. I can only put it down to a major brain fart from Ederson. Obviously, it's a horrendous back pass, but dude, realize who you're up against, right? How many times have we seen Darwin screw up? And just stay on your feet, right? You don't expect to see that from an experienced goalkeeper. I don't quite know what happened to then injure yourself in the process as well. I mean, when it rains, it pours, right? Ederson has moments like this. We can all remember a game earlier this season when he should have been sent off. Stuff happens, even to somebody who, I think is one of the top 10 keepers in the world.
So 1-1 from the penalties, but it's a good penalty because when you're made to wait, there's always that extra pressure. But no Salah on the field just yet. It was an hour on the clock when he came on. And what impact do you reckon he had, Janusz, after coming on Mohamed Salah?
Well, he's probably talking to Luis Diaz, because I think the first touch was unbelievable through ball for Luis Diaz one-on-one, where he must score that. I mean, at the very least, he has to put it on target, right? I don't know if you remember that one. After that, Luis Diaz had another chance, I think. So when we're talking about chances, I mean, yeah, Nunez again from Robertson, just to confirm that it was all Liverpool, but. What are the expectations from Salah? He could have had an immediate impact, and that's all we'd be talking about right now. After that, for a player that's been kind of at what, 50, 60, 75%, that's all you can say. I mean, I don't know if they even if they wanted him to be on the pitch to begin with, but he can always change the game. He almost did.
Yeah, Gab, we've seen so many times where one team's pushing and pressing and the other team goes up the pitch in a rare breakaway. This time it was Doku who came on as a sub, and he hits the post and it goes back into the grateful arms of Kelleher. So talk to me about that chance, but also let's talk about the Doku challenge in the 8th minute of added time when he was involved again. No penalty there. So the goal scoring might have been finished, but it could have had another couple of goals depending on circumstances. What did you make of both of those moments of the game near the end?
Well, it's funny because we've pointed out all of City's shortcomings, and it was interesting. I mean, completely made sense to bring Doku on, right, against tired legs and whatever. Which, by the way, I heard Janusz wonder why Gakpo was on. I can only assume that's the thinking. For me, if I were a Liverpool fan, the less I see of Gakpo right now, the better. But and funny enough, Doku came on for Alvarez, who I thought actually maybe had the best game out of City's front five. Obviously, that shows you that when you've got the individual match winners, you can do things, and Doku can be an individual match winner. We could just as easily, question Bruynes going off and whatever. If that goes in, then we're telling a different story, and City are, on their own at the top of the Premier League. That said, for me at the end, that's a penalty. That's a pretty stonewall penalty.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm not going to blame Brian Oliver.
Michael
VAR,
Oliver.
Sorry?
Michael Oliver, not Brian Oliver.
Michael Oliver. Good point. I'm going to bring Michael Oliver.
Brian Oliver sitting watching this goes, I've done nothing wrong.
Exactly. Either one. I think it's one of those very typical things where the VAR looks at it and says, okay, well, Michael must have thought that he was going for the ball and must have thought that he didn't leave his boot in. And so therefore he doesn't need to look at it. He saw it clearly, and we don't want to be re-refereeing games, right? It's not as if Oliver didn't see it. Might he have changed his mind if he'd seen it? I don't know. I think this is kind of like the new frontier of what people are going to talk about with VAR, because if I'm sitting in that VAR booth and Oliver tells you, yeah, I saw it clearly, then I can't go and say, well, you missed something, because you didn't miss anything, right?
Yeah.
Equally, I think I would like to think that if he sees it again, he may well change his mind. So I think we need to decide. We don't want to have re-refereeing, but equally, if the same guy looks at it again, would he stick to his original decision? I suspect he wouldn't.
Janusz, I think that brings up a really good point here, because what is getting lost with VAR is that there are constant discussions. That's why they're all wired up and they're in each other's ears. So the VAR is basically saying to the referee, what did you see? Now, if the referee basically says, this is what I thought I saw, it's up to VAR to say, well, that isn't what happened. We think there might be an error here. Something else might have happened, and it could be a clear and obvious error. If that is given as a penalty, it's not getting overturned. That penalty would stay. So Gab's right. You've got to be careful here that we don't re-referee the game. Should that have been a penalty?
Oh,
well,
sorry. On this point, just want to
be
very clear. I'm going to say we have to be careful. The rules right now, especially in England, make it very clear, we don't want to re-referee, right? So I'm going to give the VR the benefit of the doubt, say he's being careful. For me, I think certain decisions are so big that if I'm pretty confident the referee would give it, and we've seen others like this recently, I don't really have a problem with re-refereeing. We're just giving the referee more information to make that decision. I mean, that's a decision way above my head. That's an IFAB decision or whatever. And I obviously don't want to see it. And I know that, we wouldn't want to have 50 incidents like this in a game. But by the same token, we're talking in a split second. What is one of the top two referees in England? Did he see it correctly, or did I in the VAR booth see it differently? I just want to specify that. It's not me saying it. That's kind of what the rules are right now, and I presume this is why the VAR didn't send him back.
Yeah, I think, Gab, you're right. It's because we don't know the conversations, and maybe Oliver said, yes, I saw it, but how clearly did you see it? Look, for me, the problem is that for me, a foul is a foul. And again, this is a dangerous play anywhere. It's a foul. It's a foul. But if it happens in the penalty area, then it has to be a penalty kick, right? I mean, you can't tell me that you bring your leg this high with studs, and even if you get a piece of the ball, but you get you get it, neck high pretty much, that you don't call this a foul. And that's an issue. That's what I wouldn't want to re-referee the game. But even if Oliver had told me, I've seen it, and I've seen him maybe touch the ball slightly, whatever his explanation might have been, I still think that would have been wise in some situations to have a look at the monitor here or there, because it's a dangerous play, and that is a foul anywhere on the pitch.
Yep.
And for that reason, for me, it's a penalty.
And that's why, as you both have, I think quite rightly have said, look, for the extra 30 seconds, for the extra 60 seconds, if the VAR official is adamant that he thinks it's worth the referee having another look, the bottom line is, you've got to remember this as well, it's up to the referee. The referee can be advised to come and have a look, and then he'd come and have a look, but it's still up to him to say, nope, not for me. Right. So for the extra 30 seconds is fine. The problem that we have here, and yes, it's probably a penalty and should have been given, but it hasn't been. We will see that incident replicated, not exactly, but we'll see a penalty given. Then we'll see one not given. Then we'll see a referee come over and maybe give it. Then we'll see a referee come over and maybe not giving it. This is what the fans are frustrated about right now. But this is the difficulty we have, Gab, with subjective decisions.
Yeah, and look, I think there's a perfect world at some point in the future where VARs aren't going to be top flight referees. They're going to be referees who are very good at being VARs because they see everything and whatever. Maybe I think this is the direction that they're going in. Maybe just have a separate career for VARs. Maybe guys who get as far as League One, and maybe they're not good in talking to players or whatever, but they see everything very clearly and they're quick with a screen. And then maybe there's a future where, and I think this is important in the same way that, you know, a lot of times you see referees always working with the same assistant referees. They always work with the same VAR because the VAR knows the referee, and there's an element of trust there between the two of them, right? Instead, we've run into all sorts of problems here in the Premier League, but also elsewhere where, you know, maybe you have a very inexperienced VAR and the referee on the pitch is a decorated international referee, and maybe that plays into it. I don't want to contradict him, whatever else, if he tells me he saw it. We can't have this. The problem is we're not there yet. We're not at this moment in time where there's a big enough pool of experienced VARs that we can even assign them so that they always work with a certain referee in games. You know, the guy from I'm blanking on his name now, but I'm sure you remind me from the Nottingham Forest, the guy who's unfamiliar with the drop ball rule last week, right? Was it Kavanagh or I don't want to pick with Tierney, was it?
Paul Tierney.
Yeah, I don't want to pick on Tierney. But look, he's in the VAR booth on Saturday night. Well, gee, I hope, you know, if he was there for the Arsenal Brentford game, he didn't do any damage, but, you know, I hope he took the time to read his manual in the meantime. Yeah. Is he a referee? Is he VAR? They're two different things, right? They're two different roles, I think. We just haven't had enough time to build up a cohort of VARs who I think can do that and who can always work as a team with the referees the way we do with assistant referees. Like, nobody, not even the saddest of losers, grows up thinking, ooh, I really want to be an assistant referee. No, all assistant referees were referees. They hit a ceiling, they hit a certain level, and then they became assistants, right? And it should be the same thing with VARs, and it will be, I think, eventually.
I agree with you in general on almost everything you said, and I'm going to pick on something which you don't probably mean, but because you said there may be a perfection one day, I don't think it's going to happen. It's impossible. It's
just a better situation than we have now. Not perfection.
Yeah, it's subjective because, you know, part of me, like I said, to me, you know, foul is a foul. That's a dangerous play, no matter how you slice it. It's just, you know, the fact that maybe he touches the ball, it, to me, makes zero difference. I mean, that foot shouldn't be that high with touch showing. I mean, that's a dangerous play, right? Anywhere on the pitches. So we've established that. Part of it, because I don't know if I put this on VAR, because we don't know. VAR might have said, Michael, you know, just maybe have a look at this. And I don't know, maybe Oliver said, no, I've seen it. That's it, right?
He's not allowed to say no. I mean,
but, you know, because we don't. No, we say that because we don't know what's allowed or not. We sometimes don't know all these conversations, right? It could be a situation. We're on YouTube, right? It's that, you know, it's 98th minute, and maybe they just didn't have the balls to decide the game on a play like this. I mean, it could be that because part of me always kind of thinks that in a game like this, if you're not being biased, if you're not on one side or the other, you kind of say, well, was there force? Was there this? This has to go through heads of everybody. We can say it shouldn't. And it probably shouldn't, but as I said before we even get to her, it's a foul. But I bet you that went through the minds of everybody. There'd be no admission, but that's just the way we operate.
I think the bottom line here is, and I want to wrap this up because you could easily talk for hours about this, which we will not be doing. If it's in the other box, are Manchester City fans wanting a penalty for that? Pretty much 100% of them are. So there's that hypocrisy. It was never a penalty. It was never. But if it was the other end, would it have been for you? Of course it was. That's us. That's football fans. That's what we do. If you've got a red and white scarf on, you think it was. If you've got a blue and white scarf on, you think it wasn't. That's the subjectivity. Bottom line is, it was a 1-1 draw. So where does that leave us in the title race? It leaves us with Arsenal at the top. But, Gabriele Marcotti, who's the favourites now after this weekend?
Well, if I can just say one last thing about this game, I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Even
with the foibles, even with the mistakes, just as a neutral, I thought this was a really, really fun game to watch. You know, obviously, if you don't have skin in the game.
Sure.
I don't want to be boring and say 33.3% each. I still think
I wouldn't allow that.
Good. I still think the edge is with City.
Okay.
The reason the edge is with City, despite the fact that they're a point behind, is they have the head-to-head against Arsenal, and they have better players, and more importantly, they have fit players. I I don't know how long it's going to take. Look, Liverpool have been doing it with smoke and mirrors the last months with all the injuries they've had. I don't know how long it's going to take some of these guys to get back. I'm a huge Szoboszlai fan. I don't think we've seen the real Szoboszlai since he's been back. I don't know how long it's going to be since Salah gets back. So I think these factors, I don't know what Trent's going to be like if and when he returns, or Alisson or whatever. So for that reason, I'm going to give City an edge. And as far as Arsenal are concerned, yeah, I do think that experience actually matters. And they're Arsenal obviously a little bit behind on that. Arsenal have the Champions League as well, which, at least for now, which City obviously also have, but they have less experience dealing on multiple fronts. So, if you force me to give percentages, I'll put City maybe at 36%, 38%, something like that. And then the other two can be at 31%.
Okay, Janusz.
Tough one. We're constantly playing Arsenal's chances down. I'm not sure why. Best defense, best attack, best at set pieces, arguably the best central midfielder in Declan Rice. And we always talk about Rodri, at least I do, about that. The fairy tale of Jurgen Klopp is big. I think the momentum continues for him. And even if they recover just one player like Salah a little bit, it'll be look, I think the Manchester City against Arsenal after the break, which is next game, will decide a lot. But I still have to say that Manchester City by 0.5% over still Liverpool and Arsenal. It's undecided. We're gonna have an incredible race, which is superb. And I agree with Gab. We got to talk about a game that I don't think can be replicated anywhere in the world. And maybe the individual quality of players and all of that. We've seen games in La Liga and Serie A that are great, but in terms of intensity throughout 90 games, the pace of the game, and just what's at stake. I mean, that to me, that second half was, hard to replicate anywhere in the world.
Just a brilliant game of football, and kudos to the Liverpool supporters in that second half and throughout the game. But you could see Jurgen Klopp, he knows what they're capable of, but he just wants them to do that like 24/7. And it's not easy, but they gave them something to cheer about in the second half. I'm going to leave you with this, Gab. Man City are 6-5 to win the title right now. They're favourites. Liverpool are 9-4 and Arsenal are 5-2. So if you've got a spare fiver, you can get 40. No, you can't. You can get 400 to 1 for Spurs on the back of that win at Villa. Let's not go there. It's a 3-horse title race. It's really close at the top of the table, but it's Arsenal who end the weekend, courtesy of the Late Show against Brentford, on top of the table, but that was only after a brilliant game at Anfield, which finished Liverpool 1, Manchester City 1. Bye for now.